So this is part 2 of when castor oil works extremely effectively. My name is Jamie. I'm a midwife. I've been attending births for over a decade. In my previous video, I was discussing having to use castor oil because a mom was 42 weeks. Well, the next day I had a really unusual situation. So there was this mom. I was her midwife for her first and her second baby, and I was her midwife while she worked through a miscarriage and then a subsequent miscarriage. I love this family. They are near and dear to my heart. This mom calls me one day and says, hey, I'm pregnant. I went for an ultrasound. Given that I just had miscarriage, I just wanted to wait and see how this one was going to shake out before I let you know. So I went in for an ultrasound. I thought I was going to be about 11 weeks pregnant. And to my surprise, I am 20 weeks pregnant. So we had a good laugh about that because what had happened is she had gotten a positive pregnancy test. And then the next day or two started what she believed was her period. Normal bleeding for a couple days, heavy bleeding. So she assumed that pregnancy had ended in a miscarriage. But it didn't. And the reason she explained that she did not realize she was pregnant is because it was the holidays. She was exhausted anyways. All of the kids were sick. She just was dismissing any kind of typical early pregnancy sign that she usually was aware of. So I said, that's great. I'm glad to hear baby's healthy. Everything's going well. However, when you're due, I'm supposed to be out of town at my dad's 70th birthday party. So this could be a problem. And she laughs. She says, well, I never make it to my due date, so that shouldn't be a problem. And he said, all right, great. But if you are still pregnant when I have to leave, then we might just have to gently nudge this baby out, which again, I do not love doing, but some situations call for it. So sure enough, babies just like to make their own plans, and it was the day before I had been planning on leaving, and I called her up and I said, so how about a castor oil shake this morning? And she agrees. She's like, yep, all right, fine, let's see what we could do. So I tell her I'm going to be completely honest. Yesterday I was at a birth where the mom took castor oil and it worked extremely effectively. And I'm a little nervous it's going to work effectively as well, especially given your history. She had her previous birth, her active labor was 2 hours. And she was about an hour and a half away from me. So I said, when contractions start and are coming regularly, I'm just going to head there. I'm not going to wait around. I'm just going to come and we're going to hang out. So she drinks the shake. About an hour or two later, I get a text. Hey, I'm having contractions. Cool. I'm coming. So I head over there. It's probably about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. And she's having contractions pretty regularly. They're coming consistently. So we hang out, we have a good time. Me and my student go and get lunch. We leave them alone for a little bit, see if things pick up a little bit more while we're gone. Come back. After a couple hours, contractions were coming, but they just weren't really picking up in intensity and weren't producing cervical change. So we wait around a couple more hours, and then I checked her cervix, and instead of dilating, it actually was swelling and closed up even more. So I'm honest with the mom. I explained what's going on. I said, look, your body doesn't want to give birth today. I don't know what's going on, but I respect that it is saying no, and we are just going to kind of let it be. Now, by this point, contractions had kind of been even fizzling out and becoming weaker. So, of course I offered we could do more castor oil, but based on what your cervix is doing, I really don't think we should. So we need to talk in the morning and we'll come up with a plan B. They live down the street from a hospital. Of course, that wasn't ideal, but the nearest midwife was about 2 hours away. So I was heading home and I'm about 40 minutes away from the mom, and all of a sudden the dad calls and he tells me, he says, something changed. And I don't even ask questions. I just turn the car around. 5 minutes later, I get a text from the dad that the baby was born. You think you know, and you just don't know, right? You never know how these things are going to shake out. So I get there and clean up and check on the baby and check on the mom. And I said, what happened? What happened between the time that labor seemed to have basically stopped and a baby just shooting out of you? And she said, well, I went and I laid down and I had a good cry and I was really upset. I really just was hoping to have the baby today. And my husband went and he was cooking dinner and I put on a movie. And all of a sudden I just felt the most intense contraction that I had felt all day. And I just thought, okay, that's a one-off thing. And then another one comes. And then a minute later, another one comes. And I yell at my husband, I need to poop. Get me to the toilet. Turns out She did not have to poop. And her baby basically shot out of her after what she recalls as having 5 or maybe 6 contractions total. The thing about castor oil is it can mimic labor, or it can be very effective, or it could do nothing. It is the most unpredictable stuff. But when it wants to work, it's gonna work extremely well. And honestly, to this day, I don't know if it was the castor oil that made that baby shoot out, or that was just how her body was gonna labor anyways. We'll never know. How can you know? You can't go back and do the birth all over again. So the truth is, before this, I had prided myself on being a midwife who never missed a birth. If I knew someone was in labor, I never missed a birth. I was out the door, quick, lickety-split. I made it to a birth that was 36 minutes from start to finish, and I still made it to that birth. So the fact that I missed 2 births within 24 hours put me in my place. But the funny thing is, the student midwife I had at the time, who was nearing the end of studying, she said, it's really good to see that most births are uneventful, even if I'm not there. And that is the truth, and it's something I say often, is I could walk away from most births having not been there, and everything would have been fine. It's just occasionally they turn upside down, and it's a very good thing to have somebody who knows how to handle those situations available. So I'm glad that my student midwife got to learn those lessons, even if it broke my heart a little bit to miss those births. In the end, both those moms got the home births that they were hoping for, and I made it to my dad's 70th birthday party. So there you have it.